Welcome to another episode of Ben and John 2 Cars. Today we have kindly been given the opportunity to drive a lot of people's boyhood dream car, the Nissan Skyline.
Yes, and not just any Nissan Skyline. This is an R32 GTST with a big turbo conversion, fully track prepped, absolute monster. Built RB23 forged engine, and it is an animal.
Let's do it.
Now. That's the old me.
So, ask anybody what the most iconic Japanese car of the last 30 years are, and you will get one answer and one answer only.
Hands down, Nissan Skyline.
Nissan Skyline.
The Nissan Skyline.
Mine would be the Super Twin Turbo.
Nissan Skyline.
Impreza WRX.
Skyline.
Nissan Skyline.
Toyota Prius.
Hello darkness, my old friend.
Okay, so maybe not one answer, but right there near the top of the list at least is the Nissan Skyline. Ever since Gran Turismo, the Fast and Furious and drift culture has taken over the world and the UK, they have been the pinnacle, the absolute top spot for loads and loads of car enthusiasts. And today we are lucky enough to be driving this track-prepared monster.
Thanks to Ross for lending us his car for the evening. Massive shout out to Slip&Grip Automotive, who Ross basically created and runs, and it's quite a big channel now, about a big page now, and runs all sorts of events all over the place, from track days to meets to trips abroad to the Nürburgring and things like that. So please check that out. And he also sells really nice cars. So check it out if you're looking to get into that kind of scene. He's the man to talk to. Yes.
We've got paddle clutch. Oh.
So, first impressions then, let's have a little feel of this. First thing you notice when climbing into this absolute monster is the seat is so small, the cage really tucks you in, but it doesn't give you much room to manoeuvre if you're a lanker like me.
It's got a pretty aggressive paddle clutch, so it's going to be a bit of a baptism of fire here.
Let's get out.
There we go.
So as you can probably tell, it's very, very loud in here. That's because it's all been stripped out. There's no back seats, no nothing, no floor carpets or anything in here. Obviously for purposes of track running and things like that. But it really gives you that nice feel if you're in a car that wants to drive. And that's exactly what you get out of this. First thing you notice when you put your foot down in this car is the huge turbo lag that it has. That's because it's got an uprated turbo. This car originally came with a smaller turbo, but Ross has put the GT35R turbo on it, which is massive, but it also gives you huge turbo lag. And if you're into that sort of thing, which I am, and I know Ben is, and I know Ross is, then this is awesome fun to drive.
It is really, really loud. The diff is loud. The road noise is loud. There's no sound deadening whatsoever. The engine is loud. The exhaust is loud. You know you're in a very purposeful car here. This was built primarily as a track toy, and a pretty serious track toy at that. But Ross, because he is mental, also dailies it at the moment.
Madman!
That deserves a medal, because this is crazy. It's got a 2-stage boost controller, and at the moment we're still on the low boost setting. It's mapped to around 300 horsepower at 0.9 bar, which is about 13 psi. So we're only running 300 horsepower at the moment. Later on, we'll do the higher boost setting, which is about 16 psi and runs in at just over 400 horsepower. So it's pretty serious.
A really good thing to note about this car is often you find people driving Skylines these days because they're so sunk into that drift scene. So they weld the diffs up, they put it on the track with some crazy turbo and just get the back end spinning out. Whereas Ross has gone the other way with this car. It's a track car for going in a straight line, if you like. So you get that feeling here that you're really, really sturdy. Ross took us out earlier, we were going around a roundabout, not that fast, but a lot faster than you would in a normal car, and this thing was just planted. Now that's not what I would have expected from a Skyline, from what I read and what I see on TV and in the magazines. This is a nice car to drive.
Johnny's going to take it easy for a few minutes so that you can actually hopefully hear me. Essentially, this car was brought over from Japan. It's a GTST, so it's got the RB20. It's rear-wheel drive only. This isn't a GTR. And unfortunately, when he got it over here, he discovered that the compression on the engine was just gone. So when he found out the compression was knackered, he had it completely built by Rose Race Cars. It's now a 2.3 forged stroker motor, so it's an RB23 det. It's got a GT35R turbo, which is bloody massive. Huge! He's also done various handling upgrades because at the end of the day, this is designed to be a track car. So it is extremely hardcore. He's got adjustable coilovers, he's got a full roll cage on the inside, he's got R32 GTR brakes. And the whole thing really is a bit of an animal, to be honest. I've driven some fairly hardcore cars in my time. I used to own a TVR, but this is next level. This is tough. There we go. Fuck me. Jesus Christ.
One thing I noticed about this car when Ross was driving it is that it was really stable. And in the passenger seat, you're often kind of you're not really in control because you're obviously in the passenger seat and you're not really sure what your experience is going to be like when you drive it. But I'm very reassured and I actually feel really comfortable in this car. It doesn't give you any nasty surprises if you drive it properly, meaning that if you come out of a corner and you're on turbo, obviously don't lift off, don't put your foot down any further, don't kind of catch yourself out by driving it by an idiot. As long as you drive it sensibly and you're allowed to open it up when you know that you can, this car really does look after you in the return.
One thing worth mentioning is that, you know, when you think of Skylines, you tend to think of either, you know, runway race cars, 1,000 horsepower, you know, crazy acceleration. You think GTSTs with a nice diff that people go drifting in. Ross has not done that with this car. Yes, it's very quick, but he's designed it as a track car. Not as a drag strip car, not as a drifter, so it is completely planted. It's very stiff. Do you want to try high boost setting?
Not right now.
Not right now, okay.
So, just getting used to this car on low boost setting, and it's quite quick. Ross took us out earlier, before we got in the driver's seat. He'd put it on high boost setting, which is the 400 brake at 1.1 bar. And you really did notice the difference. Well, you would. It's another 100 brake horsepower. So that really does change the dimensions of the driving experience. You get to be a lot quicker, but a hell of a lot more scarier and a hell of a lot more angrier. And I'm not quite sure that I'm ready for that yet. I'm going to make sure that I'm on a straight road with no other Jeff and Jerry round, and I'm just going to give it just a little squirt, I think, just to start, because my God, it does go.
We were talking to Ross earlier and we both agreed that the enjoyment you get out of driving a car on track is feeling on the limit. And with this,
I don't think you'd want to be on that limit for long.
It's crazy. Like it feels like if you took liberties with it, it would eat you up and spit you out. It is really cool. I love it.
One thing to know about this is not the GTR, it's the GTST. And when you come across one that's been modified like this, it's a real treat to drive because it's something new and it's something a little bit special. So I put my foot down now, going uphill. There's the turbo lag. It comes in. My God, it's quick. Wow! Woo!
Select.
Right, so I'm going to pop it down, I'll pop it up, into high boost mode. There's a straight coming up,
okay.
I'm going to ease back so there's no cars in front of me. I'm going to wait until I'm fully straight and then I'm going to ease the throttle down and see what happens.
So we were running about 300 brake at 13 psi or 0.9 bar. We're now going to be running just over 400 horsepower at about 16 psi or 1.1 bar. So there's going to be a considerable difference. Right, okay, here we go then. Really, really quick.
That is insane. Right, I'm turning that off. 300 brake horsepower in this car feels really, really fast, especially the way it's set up. Lots of lag, and it hits you in the arse and shunts you forward. 400 brake horsepower with the mount and the added boost. My God, that almost felt like the car was lifting us forward. We weren't just pulling forward, we were getting lifted forward.
It's worth noting as well, like, there's something about an old school, heavily turbocharged motor like that, because it feels so much more violent. If you were to get into, I don't know, like a big lazy V8 with 400 horsepower, it would still be quick. It would still be just as quick, but this feels so much more violent. It feels quicker, it feels more urgent. You get that sort of, there's not much, then suddenly all hell breaks loose. So one of the things that Ross mentioned to us is that he was interested to see what we, as sort of non-JDM guys, would think about this, because he's quite into his Japanese stuff. We've never really owned any Japanese stuff, or a couple of bits and bobs, but not properly. And I was saying earlier, it's funny how like every Japanese car from the 90s seems to have the same material for the dashboard. It's quite plasticky in here, but I mean, who cares really? It's quite a nice place to be. Obviously this one's completely different with its roll cage and everything else. But you can sort of feel that sort of, I can feel the spirit of Fast and Furious in this. Okay, so we're back in high boost mode now. So it's a third gear pull.
Third gear pull.
Yeah, foot down. Lag. Oh my God.
Ah!
This could be breaking down. It's just that I'm broken now. This could be breaking down. Everything's different now.
So Ross has asked us to mention a couple of people and a couple of companies that he'd like to just give a shout out to and a bit of thanks for helping him with the car. One of which is Andy Rose from Rose Race Cars in Cheltenham, who built the forged stroked engine and maintains it whilst Ross puts it through its paces. Well done, Andy. Hey!
Another company to mention is Infinity Exhaust. They've done some really good bespoke exhaust work on this car, and it sounds lovely.
Sounds bloody lovely.
Bloody lovely.
Another company is Cook's Auto Body Repairs for helping Ross sort out the bodywork gradually as he finds the cash to spend on bodywork rather than performance parts.
Somebody else that deserves some credit is MLR Sprint, because they've actually allowed Slip&Grip Automotive to host their sprint class this year, which is pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
And if you are there and if you're in the event and you see anything, especially if you see Ross, make sure you come check this car out because it is a beast.
Beast.
Beast. I've jumped into the passenger seat. I've definitely had my fair share of having a bit of fun in this. And Ben's popped into the driver's seat.
I've managed to just about squeeze myself into the driver's seat. It is extremely tight. As you may have noticed from this and previous videos, I don't have the smallest build, and so it is extremely tight and very uncomfortable. First impressions from the driver's seat. Yes, the turbo lag is real. My foot can be to the floor and nothing happens because we're so low in the rev range. It is extremely loud and extremely stiff and extremely tight in the seat for me, but it's still good fun. We're just trundling along a B road now, and to be honest, it's not that bad. I'm very uncomfortable in this seat and it's really loud, but I mean, again, in terms of predictability, it's fine. Because there's turbo lag, you don't really, you don't need to really have your wits about you unless you're pressing on, which we will do in a minute. But for now, I mean, we're just poking along. I'm gonna have some bruised hips tomorrow, I think.
Yeah.
Everything happens in the top half of the rev range. Nothing happens till at least 4,000, and then you are literally chasing the 7,500 RPM red line. It just wants to get there and get there and get there. The gear ratios are quite low, which means before you know it, you're through second, you're through third, and you're through fourth. One thing to note is we're just poodling around, obviously, but it's so planted that it just feels like completely undramatic at these speeds. Like, it's not under any stress whatsoever. You can just move it around and it doesn't matter, it just sticks. I can really imagine that throwing this around a track would be really, really good fun because it's so stiff and so planted and so sure-footed. Okay, so second gear. Let's see what she can do. Straight road.
That is quick.
We're trying to turn a new leaf and not swear much. This is the wrong car to start doing that in.
Don't boot it around corners.
I won't boost it around the corners. Fucking hell.
Holy moly.
And let's go. And there's the boost. Yes, third. There's the boost again. We don't have enough time in the car to really get to know its handling characteristics, so we can't really take any risks with it. But my God, in a straight line, this thing is an animal! If you just picked someone off the street, told them to drive this thing really fast, if they didn't respect the car, they would have a big accident. You need to get to know the car, you need to know your limits and its limits. But I guarantee you, unless you're a very experienced track driver, your limits will be before the car's limits, so you really need to be careful. For me, this is great.
So good.
Fuck me. Yes! Woo! So, Johnny's had his fun. I've got to ribs with the car a little bit. We've engaged the higher boost mode. Let's see what she's like.
Wait till you're fully on that straight.
I will. I'm not even going to bother with second gear, I think it's just not going to be worth it. We'll go straight for a third gear pull.
High boost mode, 400 brake, 1.1 a bar. Here we go.
Fuck me! That is crazy! Whoa! Whoa, that was quick. Well.
Okay, so we've been out in the Skyline now for about, I'd probably say 2 hours.
Yeah.
It's been absolutely amazing just to experience what a Skyline's like, really, and to get our hands on a Japanese car that both of us have never driven, that has a huge turbo and has this awesome reputation behind it. So it's nice to see whether it lives up to that reputation. I would say it definitely does. This model, the way this has been set up, this is an awesome car to drive. It's been really well built. Massive kudos to the guy that built it, absolutely.
Couldn't agree more, yeah. Yeah, to summarise then, Ross has got himself a bit of an animal here. It's loud, it's aggressive, it's visceral, it's absolutely planted, and for what he wants and for what he likes in a car, I think this is pretty much perfect by the sounds of it. I'm really impressed with the boost, I'm impressed with the straight line performance, and I'm really impressed with how it sticks around the corners. Do I like the Skyline? I love the Skyline. I love this Skyline. If it was mine, I'd fit a slightly wider seat, but other than that, it's pretty bloody good. Johnny, what do you think?
To be honest, I love this car. It is fantastic. Basically, I love it. It's great fun. I think Ross has got something here that he can probably hang on to for a couple of years, and it will just go up and up in value. These much earlier Skylines now are going for an absolute fortune, and that's not going to change. They're not going to start depreciating anytime soon. And the way this car's been set up, it's just great to drive. It's really, really good fun. Now, so like always, thank you for watching. Please check out our other videos on our channel. Loads of stuff on there. Don't forget to like, subscribe. If you're a Skyline fan, if you like any of the cars we reviewed before, specifically with this car, if you love Skylines, Japanese cars, please share this with your friends. I'm sure they'd love to see it. It's such a good car. I want to tell everybody about it.
Yes.
Yes. Woo! Peace.